So let's talk about Chief Justice John Roberts. As you are probably aware, Donald Trump posted another insane, deranged, lunatic post on Truth Social today in which he was attacking a federal judge who had recently ruled against him. Donald Trump has been illegally invoking the Enemies Act. Normally, I'd stop this video and deal with the dogs. I just can't. Too tired. So please bear with me. Anyway, so he was violating the law in invoking this act that does not apply in order to arrest and deport people he claims are in the country illegally without due process, without any judicial hearing of any kind. And so a judge slapped that down, said it's illegal because it is. And so Trump went on a tirade, called for this judge's impeachment. And Chief Justice John Roberts, in response, issued a rare statement about all this. Now, he doesn't directly name Donald Trump, but it's obviously issued as a result of Trump's insane tirade. And here's what he wrote. He wrote, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose." Now, Chief Justice Roberts is obviously correct, and I'm glad he issued this statement. Maybe too little too late. We'll see. Better late than never, I guess. But my problem with John Roberts is that he is one of the people, along with others like, pretty much all of the Republican Party, but specifically people like Mitch McConnell, who could have put an end to this, who could have spared us this authoritarian, fascist administration that we're now having to suffer through. John Roberts could have done the right thing before, and we wouldn't be in this position. He had at least 2 cases, which if he had done the right thing, Donald Trump would not be president today. The first was the 14th Amendment case, where the state of Colorado sought to prohibit Trump from appearing on the ballot, citing Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which prohibits insurrectionists or those who gave aid or comfort to insurrectionists from ever holding federal office again. And they, on that basis, since Donald Trump engaged in insurrection, in fact, they had a trial on this to make a judicial determination that he did, in fact, engage in insurrection. That's what the courts of Colorado determined. He did engage in insurrection and therefore is barred by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment from holding federal office ever again. And therefore, since he's disqualified from holding the office, he is therefore disqualified from appearing on the ballot. Now, that is the appropriate, most logical way to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And when that case was appealed by Trump up to the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts could have, upheld Colorado and prohibited Trump from being on the ballot. Now, obviously, there's 8 other justices, but, the Chief Justice perhaps could have engineered a different outcome in that case. I don't know. All I know is that Judge Roberts didn't vote the right way, and he certainly didn't do anything to try to get the court to rule in the right way. Instead, they punted, and they said, well, it doesn't explicitly say that he's prohibited from appearing on the ballot, and it doesn't specifically say how Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is supposed to be enforced. Therefore, we're going to say that Congress has to act in order to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It's a completely bogus argument, but that's what they did. That was the first way John Roberts let down the country and the Constitution he swore to uphold. The second was in that horrible immunity case. Now, contrary to what has settled in as popular opinion, they did not give Donald Trump absolute immunity from committing crimes, but close enough. It was a horrible, horrible decision. It did not save Trump from prosecution in those cases. What they really did is, in dragging it out for so long, it guaranteed that his case could not proceed to trial before the election. And even though their ultimate ruling, as bad as it was, would not have prevented him from going to trial and being convicted and sentenced to prison, we never got a chance to put him on trial because the court very intentionally dragged its feet for months in order to make it impossible for his case to go to trial before the election. That's John Roberts. That's all John Roberts. He protected Donald Trump. He is one of the people in positions of power who are most, in my mind, responsible for Donald Trump being in office now. And for now to have John Roberts issue statements like this, because he's clearly worried about the damage that Donald Trump is going to do to the judiciary. He's going to render it completely moot if he begins to impeach judges, make judges fear for their jobs, fear for their lives. If he begins to flagrantly defy court orders, he's sort of doing that now. He's kind of inching his way towards open defiance. His lawyers in court are arguing that they are complying, and they got lawyerly doublespeak going on to try to claim that they are in fact complying. And there hasn't been yet an open defiance, but Trump is working his way up to that. He is testing. That's what's going on right now. They're picking their cases, and this isn't Trump. Trump is too stupid and too lazy to do this himself. I mean, he's doing and saying what he's being told, but his team is carefully picking which cases they are going to defy judges on, how openly they're going to defy judges, and they're going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing to see how much they can get away with the American people, and more importantly, with Congress. And if they get away, with step one, they'll push it a little more in case number 2, and then case number 3, and they'll go a little further and a little further and a little further, working their way to what? Defying the Supreme Court openly? I don't know, maybe, but that's where this is headed. And I think that's what John Roberts is worried about happening, as he should be. He's not a stupid man. I don't know what would compel him to do what he did in those 2 cases I discussed, but he certainly had available to him all the information you and I had available to us, and we knew the danger that Donald Trump would be. Hell, he promised that he was going to rule as a dictator. This is a man who tried to overthrow the government on live TV. And John Roberts went out of his way to protect this man. So, his little half-assed little indirect statement kind of pushing back on Donald Trump. Yeah, it's nice and all. That's cute, John. But too little too late, When you see someone who is a fascist, who tried to overthrow the republic, who flagrantly violates the Constitution, and who promises to rule as a dictator, when you see that man running for president, you do everything as a judge you legally can in the cases that are brought before you to prevent that man from coming to power. And you had 2 golden opportunities, and it wouldn't have been a violation of the law. You wouldn't have been twisting the law or the Constitution to get an outcome you wanted. That's in fact what you did. The Constitution, if it were applied correctly by you, Johnny boy, would have it would have prohibited Donald Trump. If the Constitution's plain meaning was given effect, it would have prohibited Donald Trump from appearing on the ballot. It would have allowed the criminal cases against him to proceed in a timely fashion. But that's not what happened, because John Roberts intervened on Trump's behalf. And so when the history of this time in our history is written at some point, well, who knows what the history will say. History is written by the winners. So if Donald Trump and his fascist cult prevail, it's going to be like Chinese history of Mao. You know what I mean? We're not going to get an accurate recounting of what happened during this period of time. But whatever. The point is, John Roberts let down the country, and he is going to, in the end, if Donald Trump and his fascist cult are in the end successful in destroying this constitutional republic, the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, will have enabled him to destroy the Constitution. A man who supposedly dedicated his life to the Constitution will have empowered a dictator who ultimately will destroy the Constitution. That will be John Roberts' legacy. So, yeah, his little statement is nice, but I find it wholly unimpressive. Screw you, John Roberts.